step forward.
Hello, everyone. This is Captain Diesel Lelouch V and producer Cito here, and
you're listening to the Then and Now podcast.
thank you guys for coming back. We have a very, very special episode today. Professor E. King of the Comments, Ethan Murphy, could not make it today due to his birthday, man. Happy birthday.
Boy.
Happy birthday to the guy. I hope you enjoy this whenever you watch the show, watch the episode. But yeah, shout out to him. So
He ain't missing much.
In interim,
here we go.
We have producer Cito here. Cito, you want to say hi to the people?
What's up,
we already
y'all?
have this on audio
Just
platforms.
subbing in and representing Nightwing for my boy Ethan. Just gonna try to fill in on his day off.
Yeah, man. Today we're reviewing a highly anticipated show on this podcast after conversations we had about the trailer review. That being Avatar: The Last Airbender, the live action edition. We start off over just general overview and thoughts on the series. Did we watch it in its totality? I know sometimes we'll have shows where we don't always finish because of them being very bad sometimes. But we can start with Cito. Cito, you're a new face. How did you feel about the show?
I mostly enjoyed it. I have had the disprivilege of watching the live action movie twice because someone who I won't name didn't believe me on how bad it was. So I kind of came in with that, like, it can't be worse than that. And I was right. However, there were a lot of things that I could see why Mike and Brian just fundamentally left. And I couldn't blame them. I got a lot of what I wanted as far as effects and character presentation, but just execution and performance on not all of it was great. But I am still looking forward to a season 2 and hope they kick out some of the kinks that were held them back in this first season.
Big Black Muffin, what you got for me?
I quit the show. I'm done.
He said, I'm out.
Anywho, I feel pretty close to what Cito does, but like times 4. Because, like, why would you intentionally make some of the choices that you did, right? Like, you had the source material. You could have deviated from it heavily and it wouldn't have bothered me. You could have stuck directly to it and it wouldn't have bothered me. But when you, like, slight tweak it and alter it on a fundamental scale in the process, it's like, why did you do that? Like, you're so close to the source. At that point, just stick to it. Like, but going to the positives first. I mean, visually, I think this was great. I think the aesthetics behind most of the bending look really clean. They definitely completely flipped the opposite switch from the original, where it took too much to bend. Well, I think it took too little to bend. Like, the fact that Aang was just flat out flying on some Zahir, like, I didn't respect that. I was like, he didn't get that up. Like, he ain't earned that. So I was a little bit bothered by that. I still, like, in watching this series, I just like, how do earthbenders ever lose fights? Because every fight is on the ground. Like, just earthbend. But that's neither here or there. But overall, I did find, like, if I could have watched this series on mute, I probably would have enjoyed it more. But I didn't. Like, the conversations felt very inauthentic to me. I didn't really feel any chemistry from any other cast. They didn't seem like a group of friends and a brother and sister that was, like, really close. It felt like very 1 and 2, and like it felt kind of robotic at times. Like, the inserted humor in spots from Sokka, like, sometimes it hit, but very rarely it did. I feel
more
like
in the beginning of the series than the end.
Mm-hmm, right. I like early. It was like, okay, first episode was like, you know what, this might be really good, and then progressively over time, it's just like, yeah, this is problematic. I see exactly why the originators decided to leave, because I mean, again, it's like just fundamental changes to how the story progressed that didn't really fit. Like, I don't know what you were trying to do when This is non-spoiler, right? So I can't say specifics.
Um, you can spoil because I think by the time this comes out, it'd be like a week at that point. We have to watch it next week, so like I think it's enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't get why you have Aang do a trial when he goes to see Boomy, but just not make it the same trial. Like, why do you immediately say, "Hey, I'm Boomy. Don't you remember me? Ha ha ha!" Instead of like put him through a trial and make him figure out that it's Boomy, because that's what the show did. Like, if you just took that scene out altogether and maybe had like a different way of introducing Boomy, fine, because the motivation behind his character made sense. Like, his friend was gone and he had to make horrible decisions, but the execution behind that was god awful. Like, I didn't feel that Boomy was like this old grunge man. He felt whiny, and Boomy was never whiny to me. The whole like statues like peering down lighted Aang was also a strange choice to me. I don't understand why they chose to do that. Overall, like, I wanted to like it because, again, like, visually speaking, they got a lot of the cues right, but it just felt like you didn't get why the moments that people enjoy from this show hit, because you didn't showcase any of them right to me.
For me, I'll start with the pros because I think I was really pessimistic about the show based off of our trailer reaction. Kind of to echo a lot of sentiments from my co-host here. Visually, this is what I wanted in regards to the world looked vivid, nature, the CGI for like Appa and Momo, like it looked decent, like it didn't look too bad for me. Even with some of the spirits, like Code looked amazing. I thought Code looked really cool, as well as the Kansas. I'm like, a lot of that stuff looks sick.
Go away.
The slime on him, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is what I expected from that stuff.
And then the second time they brought him back, they like had him stay back, and I was like, good, you stay back there, you bitch.
Even with like the tags, I know my big thing that I was really skeptical about was Aang's tattoos. It looked initially in the trailer, it looked like bloody, but in this one, you can see like some of the detailing inside of the arrows. That I was like, okay, that looks better.
It was clean.
And from like a directorial standpoint, it gave me some things that I wanted from the original show, where it comes to like extra scenes of showing interactions with Iroh and Zuko and showing like why they have such a strong bond and why Iroh rides so hard for him. I thought it was cool to see some of the scenes with Azula and I almost called him Aizen. Azula and
Aizen.
What's your dad?
Ozai.
What's your dad's name? Ozai. Because that's one thing. That's what I really thought was missing.
Oh, I'm sorry, not to cut you off. Ozai was genuinely a highlight from this. Like, he gives it the majority of my score because, like, the extra time that he got was that did hit. I'll give him that.
I wanted to follow up with that. With I do think so you don't know why they made a lot of these changes. I feel like I do, and some of them were good payoffs, and some of them I don't think were. And one of those things was, they said they were going for a Game of Thrones vibe, right? And from episode 1, you could tell where that was going to come from as soon as you saw Fire Nation, because they dove in on the Fire Nation. And a lot of the changes I think they made were because they had the lore to pick from the future of the series, whereas in the original series, they didn't have all that fleshed out. Some of them worked. Like, I do think having the Avatar shrines kind of be these MacGuffins for Aang makes sense just for speed of the storytelling, but it's still, if you're comparing it to the original, you're like, that's weird, that's unnecessary. And I feel like that's where a lot of the changes went. It's like, oh, they're trying to make something cool happen later, and they're also trying to give the Fire Nation this political story, which, to be fair, I think they did. I think they served the Fire Nation really well at the cost of the relationship of the main gang.
Right. And to that point with Ozai in particular, because I think in the show they gave him more of the Mamoru Uchiha treatment, where a lot of his development or like reputation came from his reputation and from other characters talking about him. Getting to see him this is one technique that I wish I would have saw in The Last Airbender, but I know we couldn't get because it was probably darker, where they just like Mortal Kombat incinerate people from the ground up. I'm just like, it makes sense for them to have, it kind of was different because, again, lore-wise, kind of to your point with the Aang flying,
still PG.
The spontaneous mental combustion of just making people light on fire was like, okay, that's not how that works, but it looked good and it matched the tone and the characters. And I want to get into the casting really quickly because I know online there's a lot of discussion about like people not matching characters and different things like that. I want to start off by saying the person that I felt like I don't know if she was I wouldn't say she was miscast, but I didn't really like the way
Azula.
I didn't like her take was Azula. Yeah, I didn't feel like she was menacing enough for me. I think there are moments where like through her dialogue she showed that, but like she just looks too innocent in the face for me. Because I imagine Azula from the show, and I imagine like the look she would have, and like her demeanor. And in this one, she had like the verbiage, but it didn't match what was on her face. She just looked.
It's hard too, especially when you got the original voice actor for Azula, who's just like got that villain voice down.
Mm-hmm. Man, I'm like, it's hard to take you serious when you got the cute chubby cheeks, man.
What were you saying?
No, I'm saying Azula was a menace, and she gave me more Mean Girl. And I mean, I think she has an opportunity to grow into the role. I don't think she did a horrible job, but yeah, tonally, like she didn't give me like the frightening like problem that Azula was until she lost her.
Well, it's funny that you say that too, because I thought you were going to say Katara, but I do see what you're saying about Azula, because again, it's kind of what they were doing with the Fire Nation, where they're not making Azula. I'm sorry, I keep just moving my cat out of the way. They're making Azula a victim of Ozai, and they don't do that until season 3 in the show, right? And I was just gonna say with Katara, like I feel Amanda, she's seen her in other shows. There's nothing wrong with that actor. That actor is a very good actor, but I do think the writing and the direction made sure that Katara didn't shine. And even in the episode where she was supposed to, it was like, finally,
like good effort.
It wasn't like yes, like it is in the show, you know. Yeah. Oh, and last thing about casting, I wanted to bring up Daddy Day Kim. I read an interview because someone asked him about the original, which is Mark Hamill voicing him, right? And he said,
that Mark Hamill?
Yes, Mark Hamill's the original Ozai, bro. The Joker himself is Ozai. He's perfect.
I know that.
He said, Mark Hamill's one of the best of all time, and one thing he did that was really impressive is he was unapologetic about that character. Like he went all the way in, and I wanted to live up to that. And boy, did he. That man was scary and sexy. Like what?
I loved him in that role. I honestly liked most of the casting. I thought fit. Like I thought Aang in this one was a little bit truer to the character of the show. He didn't go like 100% into goofiness. Like in moments where the monk of him showed out, I'm like, okay, that makes sense for him to look at things that way. Or like when he's trying to meditate and Katara and Sokka are being loud, he's like, hey, can we quiet down something?
Yeah. Well, and they also really took away, like, the first season is a lot of Aang exploring being alive and connecting with people again. He doesn't really feel the weight of the world until towards the end of that season. Mm-hmm. And they laid that in thick with Boomy. Like, I feel like that's where that shift really, I remember ready for a Boomy hug, right? And he's like, you little bitch, I've been at war for 100 years. Do you think I care about you? And you're like, okay. And so like from that point on, you can see Aang just like mentally, emotionally dealing with like 111-year-old problems.
Okay. Like, he got there, but like they really didn't put an emphasis on that until the 4th season. Like that first, like you said, like there's supposed to be more exploration, and like I feel like in the first season they'd had like a lot of like random islands and stuff that they hit, but it really added to the depth of exploring the world of Avatar, and I feel like that
and
was
their
missing.
Relationship.
Exactly, like the amount of conversation between Aang and Katara was minimal outside of bending, like,
or even like the first scene where they unlock Aang. It really, I tried not to let it like destroy my excitement for it, but like when Aang's unlocking was like a coincidence, that's when I'm like,
instead of her bending it out
Katara did it because she was cussing out Sokka because he's a punk ass little bitch, like, and they took that away completely, and I'm like,
she had no feistiness to her. She was so soft.
And again, I want to give credit to her because she did the job that she was supposed to, but
Right.
it
But
wasn't
it's
her
how they were
fault.
written. Yeah, it was how the
Yeah.
character was written in there. It's not.
Oh, and something about the writing you said earlier, Otis.
Hmm.
One of the YouTubers I listened made a great point. You know, they said they're trying to go for Game of Thrones audience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somehow the writing for this was less mature than the original series' writing. Like everything, like you said, it was like 1 and 2 and 3, and it's like there's nuance to have here. Okay, all right.
And the cabbage truck guy did not hit at all. I was really upset about that.
They had him like trying to do the line like amped up, and I'm like, you're doing too much. It's not the same.
Secret Tunnel Band did hit though. I'll give.
I like that. I like that.
So good.
To your point, as far as like the writing and like the dialogue being unnatural, I think that really shined for me when we were on Kyoshi Island and you saw the relationship between Suki and Sokka like form.
So awkward.
Maybe am I remembering it wrong, or was he more so pursuing her hella aggressively? Because they made it like seem like she was like on him from the moment he got there, and I was
hands down, Sokka's a hoe. He's a lover's boy in the series, in the animated series. He's a hoe in this show, okay?
Because at least in the show, it was like months apart between UA.
He's like, I didn't know that Firebender was. I didn't know she was Fire Nation. Like, bro, are you kidding me?
But that was my thing with like their relationship. It seemed really like awkward, which I guess makes sense to like if you're looking at their age. I guess it makes sense there, but. Because I tried really hard when watching this not to let nostalgia dictate how I perceive the show, because I am a slave of nostalgia.
It's inevitable, but it's yeah.
It didn't hit the same. Again, it could be because I've seen it before, but certain things as far as like their relationship, it had a lot to do with a lot of the relationships in the show that were romantic. Anything romantic in the show didn't really feel right, but I did absolutely love Zuko and Iroh's relationship in this show. I thought they did them justice. Mm-hmm. In a lot of their interactions, I thought the bond that they had. I almost teared up when they went to Liu Tang's funeral. It was an added scene, and this is what I wanted in regards to. Because I talked about it on the review, where when it comes to a live action remake of something, I need you to add in something of your own spin, or like add to the show, not just retell it. And scenes like that gives a little bit more context to why they have such a bond. And because Iroh said it, he's like, that boy saved me more than he even knows. And him giving him Liu Tang's medal and him crying together, I'm like, boy, that choked me up. And they played Leaves from the Vine, like in a remix, really subtly in the background. Single tear from me, crocodile tear.
The Fire Nation hit like
so good.
Most of the scenes from the Fire Nation were good, but like as soon as they shifted it to Aang and the gang, like the tone just completely dissipated. And then when they tried to amp it up, like the energy from that cast didn't meet what it was needed for the scene, in my opinion.
The Avatar game felt secondary, like you said.
It did. I don't know if that was intentional or not. And I don't know if it's a good or bad thing yet, because honestly, that Fire Nation shit was amazing. Like the whole plot line where his crew was that unit. Like what? And Zuko and Iroh are the MVPs, man. There was maybe 2 scenes that Iroh showed up that I didn't cry in. Like that fool was every time.
And to your point, I think a lot of that came from them making them secondary because in the original show we spent so much time with Team Avatar and the Fire Nation was secondary. So I think they're trying to add more context to that because they've seen this already. What haven't they seen? Which I can appreciate, but at the same time, you have to make sure when you show these people that you're making it seem like they're actually like friends and not acquaintances that just happen to travel together.
I was talking to Amanda about this, and she said, like, we were talking about, like you said, the romance things were weird in here, and I think a big part of that was, in the original series there is the growing plot line of Aang and Katara, right? And I'm glad they strayed away from that at the beginning because they're literally children, right? Like we don't need to do all that. However, they ended up giving that to Aang and Zuko. Like they have a growing, not love story, but like they're
you're right.
You know what I mean?
They are romancing, yeah.
They're given that role, and it's like, okay, I'm confused, but I okay, and it was I think that was the moment where I realized it was like I understand why Mike and Brian left, but I still think it was good for them to pursue this. You know what I mean? Like it's better than a play-by-play of the original. You know what I mean?
And let's speak on Zuko a little bit because I think besides Ozai, I think Zuko stood out the most. And I paid very special attention to him because I saw an interview with him and Dante Basco where they were kind of talking about the role and like what he was trying to learn from him, and the guy that played in the live action series and like what they would take from it. Um, and this like that Zuko felt right. Granted, I will say at times it felt like an older Zuko almost to me. Like I didn't like he didn't feel as angry as I thought he would in the start of the show. He seemed
Yeah,
more,
he wasn't as bratty.
yeah, he seemed like super focused and locked in. I'm like, okay, I still like it because that's Zuko later on, but I feel like I'm getting that much attention to detail a little too early, and you're not like as angry. Um, which even in this, like they changed the relationship with him and Ozai slightly to where instead of him feeling disgraced, almost it felt like he was like on a mission. Like this mission was like it felt like Ozai didn't disgrace him and leave him. It was like, okay, go prove yourself. This is your pilgrimage,
It's
and
the
then
same
I'll
thing
set
he's
you
doing
back.
with Azula.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
What were you saying, Otis?
I was saying like, yeah, it was more of a challenge. Like he's playing the political game. Then that's the Game of Thrones element to it. Like
Right.
it's like, oh, the Zuko did this. What you gonna do? Azula did that. What I mean? Where's your honor? Like he's being very manipulative in the best way possible on screen. But I would not want to be in that family.
And the one thing too, a small detail that I thought was cool was it was Azula was like angry. She was in a training match or something of the sort, and she beat dude down. And you saw her go to like do what seemed like a death blow, honestly. And you saw her fire go from red to the iconic blue she had of it like heating up with her anger. I'm like, okay, that adds more context to why her fire is different than anybody else's because I don't think they really give a lot of detail on that in the actual animated series on why her fire is blue. Which I think, if I remember right, scientifically, it's like it's burning hotter, so it's going to be blue.
Yeah.
So I
That's
thought that
the
was
fan
cool.
reason everyone came up with, and the animators were like, we just wanted it to be different colors.
Right. Because it looks aesthetically like in that final fight, it looks fire. No pun intended.
About Zuko. Also, I don't want to talk a lot more about Zuko because I've been doing enough. But one thing I will bring up from my experience: that man was doing his stunts. That man was doing almost. I was looking. I was looking for the stunt actor. That boy was fucking doing those kicks, and I was so happy. Oh my god,
one shots were crazy. So I want to get into that. Let's get into the choreography because I think that was the big meme from the first one with all the martial arts moving the pebble. And this one, like it felt like when I saw a movement or something, I felt the force behind it. It felt earned. It didn't feel like extra. Like it didn't feel like sorcery. It felt like bending to me. And even, I think the Earth style bending was a little bit different than what I imagined from the series. I remember in the series it was more immediate, of like punch and rock immediately moves. In this one, it felt like they were conjuring up strength to move bigger chunks of rock, and which I think made sense with the choreography. How did y'all feel about it? Did you feel like it lived up to expectations?
What is?
Yeah, so I mean, yes and no. In certain scenes, I was like, well, when it was a fight that you knew was going to be a close and intense fight, I feel like they executed those really well. Like, the fights where Zuko against Aang, or Zuko in the Blue Spirit mask going through the tunnel helping Aang through there. Like, I think that those are two really, really good scenes. Like going back to what we were talking about before, like the big moment from Katara where she was, fighting Paco, like that felt blah to me. Like it didn't feel. I don't. I guess for the lack of a better word, well choreographed, and no, it didn't feel earned at all because like even like Katara's progression through learning water bending was so rapid to me, and like it just came from Aang just saying like 4 words to her. It was like, feel your emotions. What? Splash? Like she's blocking whole fire bolts with the water as they're flying away on Appa. Like, this is her first time ever doing that. How did she just pull that off like that? Wait.
Right, or like when she saved them and she pulled the water from like all the way down. It was like,
just like mastered already. Okay, you just
needed she got that scroll,
a pep talk. She just needed a pep talk.
Yeah, I do think the waterbending was the weakest out of all of them, which, fair, that's a really hard one to kind of convey. The rest of them, have relatively easy VFX budgets. But I think I agree with mostly what Otis said. Like a lot of the intense close up moments were great, but like one moment I really stuck out, which was super CG, was when they're like leaving the first fireboat, and like Aang like does this little seat like video game character twirl, and the guitar like goes under the boat and then gets splashed up, and I'm like, okay, I don't know if that was necessary.
Yes.
But
again,
the
first
one-on-one,
episode.
right? But the one-on-one fights were very, or even like the first scene with the earthbending and the firebending, like all of that,
That
because
was
of how
great.
tight that was, it was crisp. But as soon as you just like pan out a little bit too far, you're like, oh.
To the waterbending point too, I feel like they changed guitar's style up a little bit. I remember early in the series, like she was real. Even later in the series, she's at the hip with it, with the little water jug she has on her. It's real, like her coming from the hip. And this one, she's just like lake water, river water. There's so much water all around me. I'm like, okay, what was the point of her having this in the series? And I think, honestly, maybe, again, I'm not a VFX specialist, but I feel like the side hip thing may have been easier to do versus you trying to give her all this water up front and have her bend like copious amounts of it. Give her like this little whip or a little pistol amount, and maybe you can make it look better. Would be my advice, possibly. Again, I don't know.
They put that emphasis on the water whip in the series, and then like, no, we're gonna throw a lake and freeze it every time. No, we're gonna stack up this ice stack and throw these. They love those projectiles for like the earthbenders and the waterbenders. Like they just love blasting those out repeatedly.
They're a lot easier.
Hey, Americans like guns too. And to that point too, I want to speak on some of the other choreography in mentioning Jet and his little bandit tribe. I thought that choreography was cool. Granted, somehow he's just like slicing through fire and rocks with ease. I'm just like, in the series, I remember him dodging it. I remember the infamous scene of him
he would do that in the series.
Slipping it. He would just slice through fire with ease. Okay, maybe I'm tripping. Then I forget.
Not necessarily with ease, but like he would use the the swords to kind of like deflect the flames.
Like
he's not like
style.
slicing. Yeah.
Because this one, I just saw him like blitz firebenders and just like slicing the fire. I'm like, what's the point of the why is the bending strong then if he can just slice through it and blitz them like that? There's no fun. Granted, I do want some I don't have to have it, but with the whole fatality move that Ozai does, I'm like, okay, what's to stop any other firebender from just
doing that all the time,
combusting you? Yeah, just like Nappa exploding you from where you stand, like telekinetically. Because apparently he has that ability too, like with the I can't remember. I don't think they ever gave him a name of exploding forehead man. I'm like, you can just make things spawn. Combustion man, yeah. So there's some things like I could see why maybe the creators had some stuff issues with when it comes like the lore wise, because like that and then Aang flying. In theory, it makes sense because if he can do all this stuff with air and float, why can't he just blow air out his hands and fly? It makes sense there, but from what the show showed and what the path of things, I guess, in regards to like the levels of bending went to, they kind of jumping the gun. So I could see that as maybe being a potential issue with the creators, but I don't think it was anything too bad. But again, stuff like that is what I think was positive because again, when I talked about it before the show came out, my thing was, okay, what are you adding to it? How are you making this different? Because I just didn't want to see a 1-to-1 ratio of the animated series to this. And I think stuff like that is it, where you just kind of add in a little extra for the visual effect.
I'm glad you brought up Jet. There's a lot of supporting characters that I want to praise and I will, but it's hard because they're such small parts. Like I totally forgot about Jet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or even oh my god, I loved Zhao.
Animal
Zhao.
Juntao's crazy.
I was like, oh my god, it's Rush Hour! Like I was so excited. But no, his portrayal of Zhao is a great character in the show. Played by Jason Isaacs, another amazing voice. That's Lucius Malfoy for anyone who doesn't know. And he Jason Isaacs, right? Yeah, I think I said that right. But the new guy, oh my god, he was like a snake. He was like just he was weasel, but like, in the best way. I like that where he didn't have the confidence from the animated show. It went into like thought and like cunning. It was great.
That was the difference I enjoyed too with him. Is that, like to your point, he wasn't outright like I'm an admiral, I'm a general, I got this. and it was more so like, oh my god, Prince Zuko, I didn't see you there. How you
I
doing,
will do
man?
what's best for the Fire Nation, my prince. Like,
He felt like Dolores Umbridge a lot more. If we're using the Harry Potter references, that's what he felt like. And I liked him. I got to get to your point. The supporting characters, I think, really carried a lot of this show.
But there wasn't enough of them.
Now, I'm not
Where
gonna
was
lie.
Haru?
Haru, yeah, bro.
He didn't even exist.
And before I forget, Abed, my boy Abed was the from Community. Danny Pudi was the engineer guy.
Was he?
Oh, Sai, or what was his name?
That was him.
Troy and Abed in the morning. He was great.
Wow.
He was, and he played a completely different character than what most people are used to for him. So
Mm-hmm. This is dope. I will say this show has me really excited for Toph. I can't wait to see what Toph looks like in this next season. I can't, because I honestly think that if they do that character right and it's the right casting, that can really make up for a lot of the flaws with Team Avatar, because she's so much of like the staple in like the almost, to me, like obviously Aang is
She's
like
the
the
one that
main
unites
character.
them.
Yeah, she feels like the rock that holds everybody down and connects with everybody. So I think maybe adding her in and writing some right scenes with that will make that a lot better, honestly. And I'm just excited to see what her earthbending looks like, because earthbending, to Otis's point, looks OD in this show. Like, I don't know any earthbenders lose. Having the greatest earthbender of all time in the show, I'm excited to see what her bending looks like. And that was the biggest thing that I was interested in when I went into the show with the bending, was seeing how they adapted each person's styles, because each bender kind of has a different, like firebenders generically have their own style, but like each character has like a different way they go about bending. And like I was kind of disappointed with Aang's a little bit. Aang didn't seem as like slick to me. He felt like more traditional martial arts, versus in the show I feel like he was more like elusive, and he was more based on dodging versus just straight up like, all right, I'm just gonna fight you, bro.
No, this Aang was ready for war. Other Aang was like, nope, I'm gonna get out the way. I'm gonna get this quick hit on you from an angle, but he's not like blitzing you like this guy was. It's like, oh, okay. You just, airbending is just like that, huh? You pushing through everything, okay.
To that point,
I'm also glad we actually got airbend, like we could see the airbending. I don't know if you remember in the original, it was fucking leaves.
Yeah.
So, thank you Netflix. Thank
the
you.
air scooter looked good. I was waiting for the air scooter for a minute, and they finally like brought it out like in the Kyoshi Island part. I'm like, okay, you got me. Claps to you. You gave me the air scooter. And to that point, when it comes to Kyoshi Island and some of the other parts, it was a weird thing, to your point with the Avatar statues. I enjoyed the aspect of him taking on the appearance of past avatars. I thought that was kind of cool, because they were really secondary in the show. And I'm like, you have all these avatars that you hype up, especially Kyoshi, because they were like gassing Kyoshi so hard in the show.
Nope.
And I'm like, I got to see it. I thought that was fire. I thought Kyoshi coming down and like working the firebenders there was cool. And I like how powerful they made the Avatar state. I feel like in the show, I didn't necessarily all the time feel how strong the state was, especially in like Korra, where it felt like just like it felt like a Super Saiyan power up, like it felt like Super Saiyan did in like the Blue Saga, where it was like irrelevant of a power up, it's just necessary.
It was like the end of a video game chapter. No, that's what it felt like.
In this show, though, when the Avatar state hit, it's over with. Like whatever you was doing, it's done. Pack it up and go home, because he's working you. But yeah, I enjoyed that though. I always enjoy you seeing more of the different avatars, and especially me being the fan of like wanting a Kyoshi series at some point, getting to see Kyoshi in action for a brief moment. I'm like, okay, that was cool. That was cool with me.
I thought that scene looked fucking terrible. I didn't like the moment of it. I thought the CG looked bad. I thought her makeup looked garbage. Why is Suki looking better in your makeup than you do? Make that make sense. I hated that scene. That's what just kind of turned me off from this being good. It was like, oh, this is what this is. Got it. I did not appreciate that one.
Fair enough. But I do think like at least the principle of like the statues being there to guide him. Because I felt in the show he was kind of flying by the seam of his pants, which I guess is the point of it. I felt like because they make a big point in the show to talk about how the past avatars give you so much knowledge, and I feel like he would use that sparingly. Like at points where he was like at his lowest, he would go to him. But it would make sense for me as he's learning all these bending techniques for him to like travel places where past avatars were and speak to him and pick up game. Again, that's just little stuff like that where I'm like, okay, it's adding on to it. It's different, and it's something I think works personally.
I think I reacted somewhere in the middle between you both, because from one end I was like, "Oh, this is cool. Like, this really makes sense. This is a great way to showcase these abilities without it being Aang." But then on the other hand, I was like, "This feels like a change you make for the video game so that you have a big boss fight." And to your point, Charlie, that is kind of the it's like a checkpoint. So I appreciate it, but it didn't feel natural, which I think is what Otis was missing from that.
Yeah, it just felt like, oh, I'm just hyper OP out of nowhere. There was no real build up to it. It's like,
which is the end of a video game chapter, right? You get you for the boss battle. Like, they did what they did.
I've never been a big fan of temporary power ups in anything, so like, don't do it.
It's a plot device, right?
Right. It's the village is raided and we do not have the benders to take these people out. Avatar state, you're done for. But I'm excited.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Finish your point.
I was going to say, like, in the animated series, like, we got that one moment from Roku, right? But it's because we spent all this time learning about the spirit world, and learning about the Avatar state. Whereas at Kyoshi Island, it was like, here you go. So it didn't feel as earned, but it was still cool. It still looked great.
I just enjoy the aspect of learning more about the other avatars in general. Because again, that's the whole concept of the show is that you have this unlimited well of knowledge from prior people that you're supposed to tap into. And then in Korra, I feel like they tapped into it more because she spoke to more avatars. But Aang spoke to like 4 or 5 maybe throughout the course of the whole show, like Roku, Kyoshi.
3. I don't think he talked to Yang Chen. Did he talk to Yang
Chen? He talked to her at Turtle Island, I remember. When he was trying to get his bending back, I thought.
That's right.
So he talked to like 3 or 4 people. And I'm like, you have hundreds or 75, or I can't remember if there's an exact number, but a lot of fucking people to get knowledge from, and you only get to like 5 of them. I don't know. That's just me though. But going forward, because I think this show is getting a second season, right? Has it been confirmed yet if they're getting a second season?
I figured they're likely going to get one.
They're probably going to get one, yeah.
What do you guys have anything you would look forward to? Rather than be like a character, moments? What are you guys looking forward to for the next season?
Otis?
I'm for sure looking forward to Toph. Like, I want to make sure when they have her appear in that arena, like, she really feels like, oh, she's just casually taking on these 4 other guys, because that's what she does.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to seeing, second season of Avatar is really where I really, found my fondness in Iroh, like seeing him in the tea shop. I'm looking forward to seeing how his and Zuko's relationship develops. I think they are one of the few people that do have really good chemistry, in my opinion. So any more scenes with them, I'm looking forward to seeing. Ba Sing Se, I don't know if they're gonna get to all of that, but from some of the stuff that I've heard about what they want to do with the script, I just hope they don't change it too much. But I like the Dai Li. I mean, I want to see them doing some of their cool stuff. That's it for the most part. I mean, I think they have Azula Aang. Like, if she doesn't come and like really dog walk that squad on that first time seeing them, I'm gonna be a little bit disappointed.
Yeah, I can't wait to see her just like strategically take down Ba Sing Se on her own. And those conversations, like, I need her to get her monologues off of just like pure evil Azula-ness. But for me in particular, I'm really excited to see. Well, I hope we get this because they kind of alluded to it initially in the forest scene where they're transporting Iroh in regards to like his prior life of being the Dragon of the West. I need more like flashbacks of seeing how ruthless he was. Because in the show, when you see him change and he mentions how bad he was, I need to see just how much of a demon Iroh was when he was the Dragon of the West. Of like, maybe we get clips to him raiding Ba Sing Se. Because I thought that was really dope. How him and the one supporting actor who's like his prison guard was like, yeah, bro, I was there when you murdered my brother and you like waged war, and now you all happy and jolly drinking tea and shit. No, I
holding the rock above him. So good.
So I got to see Iroh and like because I want to see that dichotomy of like old, happy, knowledgeable man and like how he got to that point. So I don't know how much of the show they can dedicate to like giving him fleshing out a backstory, but at least give me like a cutscene. Maybe they're in a tea shop talking about it at one point, and he like has a flashback for like 20 minutes for an episode. I love that.
I'm with you, Charlie. Man, Iroh's my favorite 5 shirt. Like in that scene when the rock's above his head, and he's like, "You really are like soulless or something." You see him go from like Dragon of the West to like puppy dog. Oh, because he's like, "You really don't know what loss means" or something like that, and he goes, just immediate puppy dog, and I was like, I do want more of that. I just am concerned again with the first season that it's going to come at the cost of the main group, and so I want, like, we got the sneakiest of peaks at the end of the last episode when they were like making fun of each other, and I'm like, that more
all the time,
you know, and so I really want more of that. I think Aang is fine. I think he's gonna have to be that, you know, I got the world on my shoulders kind of thing. But I think Zuko's a good counterbalance to that. They're, you know, like we said, their little bromance. I think with Sokka and Katara, that love cave thing, like I got what they were trying to do. It was a whole Frozen thing, like, you know, where do we love each other? But you need, if you're gonna do that, you need like to raise the stakes. Like there needs to be a bigger reason other than I love my brother for us to care about you guys.
I think we'll get that with like, because in the show they have like the slice of life episodes. I think if you give like them that, and then obviously I'm really excited for the beach retreat scene when Zuko goes with Azula and Ty Lee and May. I'm like, I don't know if they will do that exact episode, but I'm like, those are perfect episodes for you to flesh out the relationships between characters.
Season 3 though.
And it's season 3. Yeah, that's tough. Oh, not maybe if we went to that exact one at some point, but like the main Avatar gang, I feel like has enough of those slice of life episodes to be like, okay, give me like one of these episodes to take a break in the show to kind of flush out their relationships. Because right now they seem like acquaintances more than like a family than they did in the show.
I think you covered it though. I think Toph will be that opportunity for them.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that's what it is, because I love the Fire Nation stuff, but it every time that got highlighted, you like Otis said, you come back to the main group and the tone is just like, wait, where are we? Yeah.
And to Otis's point, they need to like, I want the tiniest 4'11" girl to come out there with. I don't know if you can find that. Well, I've seen like child actors do it before. I need you to find the smallest feisty acting girl to play this character, because I gotta have that feistiness.
But they're out there. We got Laura in X-20 in X-Men. That little girl was crazy. The X-23's daughter. X-20.
Is she like 20 something? Is she like 6 feet?
No. I'm not saying now, but I'm saying.
Oh, but like
there are little actors who can do that. They can.
Right. I hope or like Chloe Grace Moretz when she was Hit Girl, like that type of energy.
Exactly.
I need that for Toph. I need that. So hopefully we get that.
If she does not call Aang Twinkle Toes, there's going to be a problem.
Agreed. 500%.
Oh, if they mess up Toph, fans will riot. This is like arguably the fan favorite character of the series. If you mess her up, you're going to have a problem on your hands. So that being said, do y'all want to go ahead and go into ratings for the show, for the overall show, or at least for the season of the series?
Sure.
We'll start off with Sita. We'll start with you. New face.
I'm gonna be a little harsh, and I'm gonna give him a 6.5. Just because I saw what they were trying to achieve, but I wasn't there for all of it. But it wasn't horrible by any means.
Big Black Muffin.
It's like, I'm not responding to that.
No, honestly, so in my initial rampage going through it and seeing people like say it was good, I ranted and gave it a 4. In discussing it more, and I gave it the whole series a second watch, but like I rewatched certain episodes because I knew we were coming to this review. I give it a 5.5. I think it has potential. I think it has the good bones of a show because, I mean, obviously you're taking the bones from a great show. So obviously you can't get too far from being good. But again, address the chemistry issues between the main cast, find ways to highlight them without, drowning out what you built with the Fire Nation, which was very interesting. I give them credit for that. The chemistry between Azula and the main gang has to be right to me. They feared her. Like, she was the Angelica to their, Rugrats, and deservedly so. Because I mean, that girl was a problem. But overall, I think that if they're going to stick to the changes that they did, I'll give them a second season to commit to them to see if they hit better this a second time around. But the adjustments were a little bit jarring. It took a minute for me to get used to them, and I just certain moments that I was really expecting to enjoy, they missed completely. So I can't give them higher than a 5.5.
I'd probably be around Cito, and like, you've seen between you guys and give it like a 6 for me. I think the highs were high, but the lows were very low. And in addition to that, I think the creative liberties that I wanted, they took enough for me to be happy, as far as giving other characters and other relationships that we didn't see before screen time, and flesh those out a little bit more. And I'm genuinely excited for. Well, I'm not gonna say excited. I'm hopeful is a better word for a second season and what they can do with certain characters too. That I think will round the show out. But there were too many times where I, like, to Cito's point, I would see some Fire Nation stuff and be like, "Ooh, this is nice. This is nice." And then I get back to the main gang and I'd be like, "Man, I want to watch something else." I have like 3 other shows I could be watching, need to watch right now that I want to watch. But
bring back Daddy Day Kim.
Oh yeah, bring him back. That is one thing. That's like probably the biggest thing that I'm glad they did, that I really was disappointed with the main series, that you didn't showcase the main villain of the show more. He just laid this ever-present person through the whole series, and we saw flashbacks of him. No, like, make me fear him. And this one, the Mortal Kombat fatalities, keep them coming. Keep incinerating people with one finger on the spot. I need to see more of those. So yeah, I'm excited. I'll give it a 6.
Can all agree this didn't fail, though, right?
Nah, no, I don't think it failed. I think for fans, it gave fans enough to look forward to. I don't think you please every fan, obviously, because a lot of people think it's uber buns, which I can understand.
How do you guys think this was for people who'd never watched Avatar?
I don't know. Yeah, I haven't spoken to anybody that had. Again, like, to our point with the review, I don't know too many people that haven't seen it, like the original show, to some extent.
All the people that I know that have never seen the show that came over on here liked it a lot. They didn't have any expectations coming in besides, like, oh, this is a kid's show, and they got in like, oh, this is not a kid's show. You're dealing with espionage in the first 5 seconds of the
That's who they're going for.
Yeah,
they're hoping they get the fans, but those are the people they want, right? Like, with One Piece. I was sorry to say, like, with One Piece, I never watched that anime, the manga, nothing, and I got hooked on that show. You know what I mean? Those are the people they want.
Way better paced than the anime.
What'd you say?
No, I'm saying the live action One Piece is just way better paced than the anime.
Yeah.
Yeah, to your point, all the casual fans that I know that have watched it, that I've spoken to, they enjoyed the show. Because again, I think because we've seen so much nerd stuff, yeah, I think we look at it. I try to check my critique level so I don't like over criticize things and just enjoy it for what it is. But I think Otis took part of ruining that for me since I met this man.
Stuff is bad, bro.
Hey, look, you're allowed to be critique. You're allowed to have subjective opinions, right? But it's about knowing the bigger picture, right? You know?
But yeah, I think it was okay series. It was an okay show. I'm looking forward to the second season. But yeah, so before we head out, guys, church announcements. I'll gather around my people for the show. Next week we have our live show. Well, no, this is gonna be coming out after the fact. But if you're seeing it and you haven't seen the live show, we're gonna be having Blur Without Fear on for our live show, and we're getting into some discussion about Deadpool, the movie, the new movie coming out, and kind of what that means for the MCU. Just kind of more MCU and DC stuff in relation to comic stuff. So we got to bring on the comic expert, and we'll get into a lot of discussion about that as well. Blurred, if you're keeping up any of that content over there, we have Blurred Jeopardy that will more than likely be out before this airs. But again, if you haven't seen it by the time you're watching this, go check that out over at the Blurred official YouTube channel. Again, we have Blurred Without Fear on there, as well as the Black Macedonian on there as well. Otis, is there any other content you want to, or people you want to shout out?
Also on the Blurred Without Fear, the Blurred official YouTube channel. Be on the lookout for Anime for Dummies. That should be out by the time this is going. Edited by both of these guys over here. Now, also make sure that you tune in to the Saturday community streams. I missed 1 week because I had an event to go to, but those are still coming. Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern. This upcoming week we are playing. I think we're playing Dead by Daylight.
Oh yeah, I should have told me that. I'm there for that.
Spooky.
Well, damn, I'm not gonna be there for that. Never mind. I'll be back home. I'm hurt. I'm bringing my PlayStation with me. I won't be on the stream, but I'll be playing though. See if there's anything else you want to shout out. Anything
Thanks for having me on, guys. Thanks, Ethan, for bailing so I could talk about this show. I was actually really excited to do so. Follow this tag and that tag and that tag, and watch the videos coming out. I worked on some of them too.
Yes, sir. Again, this has been Big Black Muffin, aka Lelouch V, Editor Cito, and Captain Diesel. And
You're listening to the Then and Now podcast.